Hi everyone, welcome to this week's Halton Hills housing update. So today we're going to see how the year has started off, and it's not bad. I mean, we're going in a decent normal trend, so let's look at the numbers. In Georgetown this week, we only had 4 sales, which is quite low but very common for the start of the year. The good news is there are buyers out. I think we have 4 or 5 more in the sold conditional status, and I saw 2 of them that came up last week that are already sold conditional. So the buyers are out, and like we talked about last week, a lot of the stuff on the market right now is stale and it's not gonna be popping off the market, but all the new stuff coming on is gonna have fresh eyes, and I think it's gonna be relatively busy here. The, I guess, sort of bad news is that we had 13 new listings in Georgetown. That is pretty high for the start of January. It could be a sign that we're gonna see the inventory that left like pile right back on. But for now, with sales happening and then we had some properties coming off the market, our inventory is not like doing anything crazy right now. In Acton this week, we had 1 sale and 2 new listings, so again, nothing crazy there. Glen Williams had 1 sale and 1 new listing, and the rural market had no sales and no new listings. Through November and December, we see a ton of properties exiting the market. The surprising thing for me is that we had 5 properties exit the market this week. Usually by January, we start to see that, really, that number basically disappears. So 5 properties exiting the market is maybe an indicator that things are not going as well for those listings that were sitting and were stale. We did have 4 properties reduce their price, they relisted. So 9 properties that sort of adjusted last week, but in comparison to 30, 40 of them in a week, that is not so bad. I do hope we still see properties coming off the market because there was a lot going into 2026 that were sitting there pretty stale. Looking at active inventory, we are only up from 131 to 134 active listings. So pretty good. Like, sitting at 134 active listings feels super refreshing in Georgetown. When we start to climb towards that 200 mark is when things are really starting to spiral. But for now at 134, we're just going to take this as a win. Georgetown this week is up from 66 to 71 active listings. So overall, we are starting the year exactly where I thought we were going to start the year. I feel really good at 71. If anyone has been watching for years, they know, like, when we started 2022 in that chaos, we had 11 listings in Georgetown, which is not realistic. And we know that first bit of the year was crazy in 2022. Again, it's supply and demand. We had no supply in 2022. So to be at 71 is very much on trend with what we have been seeing the last 2 years. What really needs to happen is buyer activity pickup. We have been behind on units sold the last few years, and it really shows as our inventory climbs. So anyways, Georgetown this week, under 800,000 is up slightly from 10 to 11 active listings. 800,000 to $1 million is also up from 23 to 26. 1 to 1.5 million is actually down from 27 to 26, and 1.5 million plus is up slightly to only 8 active listings still, which is still low in that price point. In Acton this week, we're up slightly from 15 to 16. Glen Williams is also up from 6 to 7, and the rural market is actually down due to some terminations, down from 44 to 40. So overall, I think our numbers are still good for the start of January. People are just getting their feet wet in the new year, and I think that if you're a buyer, this is a really good time to be looking. I do think we are sitting with nice interest rates in comparison to where we have come from the last few years. There are some really reasonable prices on houses right now, especially if you are looking, you can get opening price point townhomes right now under 600,000. That was not something we have seen in a really long time. And we know that when the market bounces back, which eventually it will, those properties easily get 700,000-800,000. So it's just this window of time right now where I think it's a good time to buy. Pretty good update for the start of January. The thing we're always going to be watching is inventory skyrocketing. And right now it is not, although we did have quite a few new listings. That number really is what can impact our market one way or the other. So I will be back next week to see what continues to happen in January. Have a great week, everyone.